Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the show, my friends. Here we are. We're going to talk about patterns of behavior, good, bad, how to control them, how they control you, and everything in between. How's that? Yeah, patterns are very important. One, for picking up on your behaviors, and two, for changing them. And like early on in my journey, they were very important. It was one of the first things that I really latched onto and started using to design the life that I wanted to have in both directions, in creating the life through setting some patterns and also disrupting the dysfunctional patterns as well. So, you know me, I like to tell a story or two. So, when I was first getting sober, my sponsor was very militant, we'll say. He was a big book thumper, you know. So he was, and I needed that. I needed somebody very strict, which is ironic because I don't do well with that, and I never did before my entire life. I resisted it, and pretty much ever since I've resisted it. But I needed it at that time, so there was something in me that allowed it to transpire and benefit from it. So I was taught that, you know, you go through the 12 steps. That's the program of recovery. And this was my introduction to patterns, you know, and you take step one, then step two. You don't jump ahead and make your amends to clear your conscience, which is like step 9 or 8, is it? Step 9, I believe. So, you know, you don't jump around. They're in order for a reason. So one day my sponsor gave me this sheet, and it had a bunch of questions on it. And he said, fill this out every night at the end of your day. And I noticed at the top, it said, I think it said step 10 and 11 worksheet, or maybe one of those, whatever. So I said to him, I says, but like, you've been telling me to take the steps in order. So like, I don't know where I was at the time, maybe step 1, 2, 3, somewhere around there. I said, so why are you having me fill out a 10th and 11th step worksheet? And he looks at me and he says, well, he says, like, is your life messed up enough now? And I was like, yeah. He goes, okay, would you like to mess it up more? And I said, no. And he goes, okay, well, this is going to help you stop messing it up. And I was like, oh. He says, so you can wait if you want. If you want to continue messing up your life, you can wait, or you could start filling out the paper now. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll start filling it out now. These were the types of conversations we had. So I did. And what I noticed was, you know, it was like, I don't know, 10, 12 questions. And once I got into the routine of it, I could rip through pretty quickly. I mean, I could rip through probably 5 minutes. But even when I did it fairly quickly like that, I filled out that worksheet, and I created an online one, and I started storing it into my computer by date. And I think I filled that thing out for at least 3 years. almost every single night, and it was highly beneficial. And what I would see is, like, even if I went through it quick and I'd be like, oh, did you harbor any resentments today? Or was there something you could have done better? Or I forgot what the questions were, but, things like that. And I'm going through them. And then sometimes I'd be like, I'd answer it a little too quickly. And then all of a sudden my mind would be like, well, wait a minute, you actually did. There was a problem there. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I go just jot it down. And I just rip through it. And then sometimes I would go back through like a week or two and kind of see if there was any patterns, which of course was helpful. But sometimes I didn't even need to do that. Like let's say, this was at the beginning of my family court journey and all this stuff. This was 22 years ago. So sometimes I would, like, if I had a resentment towards my ex-wife, I would work through it with my sponsor and stuff like this, get a healthy way of wrapping my brain around it, and then go. And then of course, we might have a phone call or something might have happened with my ex, and it wasn't that big of a deal where it really captured my attention, but I did harbor a resentment towards it. And I didn't even really know that I had. And it would be interesting because I'd be like, I'd be filling out this sheet, and all of a sudden one of the questions, I don't remember what it was. Has anything been bothering you today or something? Like, if she popped into my head in a negative way, I would just, or anybody else, I would just jot it down real quick. And what I noticed is sometimes I would be jotting her name down in like 1 week for like the third time or something. And all of a sudden it would dawn on me. I'd be like, wait a minute. Didn't I jot her name down yesterday or the day before or the day before that or something? Is she popping into my head in a negative way? Like, what's that about? And I'd go back and I'd look and I'd be like, yeah, sure enough, I jotted her name down 3 times in the last 5 days or 6 days. It's like, oh, okay, something's there, right? So I was able to identify it, go in and find something that was bothering me that I didn't even really know consciously it was bothering me, because I was just ripping through this, not putting a lot of thought into it. Just, hey, did anything bother me? No. Yep. No. Yep. And answering all these questions. And that's when I started picking up patterns. And it was good because it prevented me from harboring resentments. One of the things that we do in life, in general, most people do, is we stuff resentments, we stuff emotions, we stuff things that are bothering us. And we do it for lots of reasons. One, because we don't want to face them. We're good at distracting ourselves. They're not fun to look at. We tell ourselves that they're no big deal and just push them aside. We tell ourselves when we look at it, if it's bothering us emotionally, we'll look at it and say, should this be bothering me intellectually? And we'll go, well, no, it's just silly. It shouldn't be bothering me. So we'll just dismiss it. And it's like, it doesn't matter if it makes sense intellectually. It matters if it's triggering something emotionally. Because usually what happens is things that trigger us emotionally, the reason they're triggering us is they're triggering us from a belief system we set in place when we were a child. When we were a child, we didn't have all the intellectual understandings of the world in which we live. So a lot of them sound silly when we bring them up into our consciousness. We look at it and we go, no, it can't be that. That can't be bothering me. That's silly. That's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, but it is. Don't push something away or stuff it back down because you think something shouldn't be bothering you. If it's bothering you, there's something you need to look at, period. So this was when I first started finding patterns and using them to adjust my behavior, using them to treat resentments that I was stuffing that I didn't even know I was stuffing, and to pick up on them and heighten my awareness around them. So, that was I think that was my first interaction with patterns and using it in a beneficial way. And then, I started that when I was still in Florida. So, when I was like around 9 months sober or something, I moved up to Rhode Island to be with my son and got a job and started, navigating that whole life. And I remember, that I don't know if this was technically the next time or not, but the next time I remember noticing patterns was when I was at my job for a year. So one day I'm at work and, I think they used to drop off mail or either mail or items, stock items and things like this. I was selling cell phones, and they used to like make a trip over from the main store to our store sometimes. And maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But anyway, I got my check, and there was a check for 40 hours. Now, I already had gotten paid that week. So I called up the main office because, I live my life honestly. So I called up the main office and I says, hey, listen, I think you made a mistake. You already paid me for this week, and now I got an extra check. And they said, no, you just hit your year anniversary. That is your vacation pay. You got 1 week vacation your first year, and you didn't take any of your days, so you get your vacation pay. And I was like, oh, wow, sweet, nice. And my first thought was like, wow, that never happened in the 20 years that I was drinking. I never accidentally forgot to take my vacation days. But I was just so focused on being responsible and doing my job and creating my new life. I didn't vacation or skipping a day was the last thing on my mind. So I just didn't do it. But I looked at it and I said, okay, isn't that interesting? So I went a whole year without taking a vacation day. Is that healthy? These were the questions that I asked myself. I literally was a blank slate. I did not know how to live life after I got sober, because I had been living it dysfunctionally and I didn't want to live like that. So I was basically looking at every area of my life as it came up and choosing consciously how I wanted to live that aspect of my life. So when this happened, I looked at it and I said, okay, so do I want to continue not taking vacation days and just get these cool checks at the end of the year? And I was like, you know what? I don't think so. I don't think that that's a healthy, well-balanced life. Like, I don't think companies give us vacation because they're nice. Like, that's not usually a driving force. Like, they give us vacation because we need it. Because if people just worked with no vacations, they'd go crazy. Like, you need to unwind. You need to take some time off. I mean, even God rested on the seventh day, so like so I was like, okay, I think if I'm trying to create a healthy life, I think taking vacation days, maybe not all of them necessarily, but having a break every once in a while throughout the year, I think is healthy. So I'm going to take my vacation days consciously. So the first thing that popped up was fear, because I was like, oh my God, if I take I could see a lot of my unconscious patterns. So like once I gave myself permission to do something negative, I usually continued doing it. So I was worried that if I took a vacation day, then I'd talk myself into taking another one 2 weeks later and another one 2 weeks later. And then, in 2 months, I'd have no vacation left. And then all of a sudden something would happen 6 months later and I'd be screwed because I had no vacation days. So I was like, okay, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to fall back into an old negative behavior pattern. So let's set a rule here. And this is what I started doing with a lot of patterns, is I started using patterns in my for my benefit. and I started setting rules for them. So designing my own patterns. So I was like, okay, if I take a day off now, there might be this unconscious pull to take another one. I have to say no to that unconscious pull. So what if I took one now and I'm not allowed to take another one for 3 months, no matter what, no matter how much I want to, unless it's an absolute emergency where somebody's in the hospital or something. Like, I can't take one for 3 months. And then after that, I don't have to take one, but I can if I feel like it. If I have a good reason, you know? So I set something like this. You know, this was, again, 21 years ago. So I don't remember the exact every word I had in my head, but basically that was it. So I said it. And I took one day off, and sure enough, the next day there was this, you know, this thought pops into my head that goes, Glenn, man, you've got 2 weeks this year instead of 1 week. I mean, surely there's no problem in taking another one. And I was like, no. I see that. I see that unconscious behavior trying to come in and talk me into dropping into unconsciousness and doing things that are unhealthy without really thinking them through. So I stuck to my rule, and that's how I created my pattern for dealing with vacation days. Now, you know, it might sound silly, but you can use that in any area. Like, you know, when your discipline is extremely important in our spiritual disciplines and in our lives, and you guys are going to see this, discipline is going to be huge over the next year or two. It's just going to be getting more and more popular. There's going to be courses on discipline, all this stuff. This is where the spiritual teachings are going, because we need to be more structured and take our spiritual disciplines more seriously so we can anchor into our spirituality deeper and not get knocked around every time something happens that we don't like. So our disciplines are going to be more and more important, and I'm already seeing this wave come up. So it's always been important. It's just going to be more in the front of our face, you know, in the coming year or two. So in my opinion. So setting these rules for my behavior, you know, I did that. It's like going to AA meetings. They're like, you know, when you don't want to go, that's when you really need one. And there's some truth to that. It's just like anything, it's not 100% true. Sometimes you just need a day off. So after I was sober, you know, 4 or 5 years or something, everything was going well. I did the same thing with AA meetings. Like I never missed an AA meeting. Not that I went to one every day, but on my days that I was going, I never missed one, because I didn't want to be the one that fell into a negative behavior pattern. Oh, I don't feel like going, so I'm not going to go. And that would, you know, then all of a sudden fall deeper into self-pity or whatever was making me feel like not going. And then, you know, then you start to spiral sometimes, especially if you're an addict or an alcoholic. So like I would monitor that. And if I missed a meeting, I would make a rule, like, you're not allowed to miss another meeting for 6 months or whatever, you know, and I would live by that. I would make a commitment to myself, and I would live by that, you know. And that's, you know, making the commitment to yourself is huge. You know, I've done another podcast on this, and a lot of people make decisions about doing things in their life, and the reason that they don't follow through with them is because when the time comes to follow through, they open it up for discussion with their ego. You can't do that. Like if you set a plan in place ahead of time and you say, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to stick to it no matter what, for 2 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, then you have to do that. And if you don't, it's disrespecting yourself. It's breaking a promise to yourself. It is not changing your mind. That's what everybody tells themselves. Oh, it's just me. Like, I can change my mind. It's not you changing your mind. It's your ego talking you out of it. So it has control over your behaviors. So you set the plan in place, you make a commitment to yourself, and you do not break that commitment. Like I used to hear in recovery, like, if you're on your way to a meeting and your ass falls off, then throw your ass over your shoulder and get it to a meeting. There's no excuse, right? So like, if we don't make commitments to ourselves and hold them, it tears down our self-respect. It tears down our self-esteem and our self-love, because we're not treating ourselves respectfully. We're disrespecting ourselves. We're not changing our minds. We're disrespecting ourselves. And we're not even in control of our own lives. This is why discipline is going to become so important, is most people are not in control of their own lives. They're just not. Like, it's, most people want to do something and they're not doing it. They want to go on a particular vacation. They want to take time off. They want to change their job. They want to go try a new restaurant. There's something that they want to do and they're not doing it month after month, year after year. This is because most people aren't in control of what they're doing. They just kind of float around and, oh, well, I don't feel like it. Why should I if I don't feel like it? It's because it's not you that doesn't feel like it. 99% of the time, it's your ego trying to control you and talking you out of it. And if you keep giving into it, you just lose control of your life. You don't do things that you want to do. You don't follow through. So you have to make these commitments. It's a very important part of following through with your patterns. So yeah, set those patterns of behavior in place, make a commitment to yourself, and follow through with them. Let me see what else I want to touch on. Yeah, this very well might be a short one because it's pretty straightforward. Patterns create outcomes, right? Patterns create outcomes. So if you're looking at your life and you're not enjoying what your outcomes are, then it's because there's a pattern of thinking or acting that keeps achieving that outcome. A pattern of thinking and behaving that achieves that outcome. Think of manifesting. You guys know, I think manifesting is taught wrong, but most people think of manifesting as like putting energy towards something and then it comes to fruition. And there's some truth to that. Okay, so let's just stick there. We're not going to go deeper into manifestation, but so if you keep putting energy towards something, then an outcome comes to fruition. This is how you can tell. Like I use that mentality to come to wow, what's that term? Well, this isn't it, but to come to logical conclusions on an educated guess. I think that was the term I was trying to find. To come up with an educated guess, something that's likely that is happening behind the scenes where I can't see. Okay, so one of the most obvious, and you can use this in any situation. You follow the line of logic, and you follow you can start at the outcome and then work backwards to find your pattern. So if I look at the government, right, in the last 50 to 100 years or so in the US, and I go, okay, what is it like? What is it achieving? What has the government consistently, what has happened in society through governmental structures, not just governmental structures, but let's just say not even the government, right? Just just kind of how society in general is set up, including the government. What has happened consistently in society in the last 50 years? Well, the money and power is funneled upward and the poor get poorer. So the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's been consistent. There's never been a variance of that. In 50 years, it's consistently, the rich have consistently gotten richer and the poor have consistently gotten poorer. And then I go, okay, so there must be a behavior pattern that gets that to happen. There must be a way of thinking and behaving that keeps achieving that, because you can't achieve something consistently for 50 years, 100 years, and not be and be like, whoops, like, geez, we weren't trying to get the rich richer and the poor poorer. It just, we tripped over a rock and it happened. Whoops, my bad. Don't worry about it. We see the error. It's never going to happen again. It was simply an accident. No, it's been consistent. So I go, oh, okay. So they must be putting energy towards, they must be putting thought and behavior, which is energy, towards achieving that. Why? Because it's achieved. Okay. So now what would I like society to do? Well, solve societal problems. That would be nice. Okay. Have they done that? Not really. No. There's been little bits of progress made on societal issues here and there sporadically, but there's no consistency to it. We haven't transcended anything. There's no problem we had 50 years ago that just simply isn't a problem now. So we haven't solved any problems. Oh, okay. Then that tells me that there is no consistent thinking and behavior heading in that direction towards solving problems. Because if there was, some of those problems would be solved by now. There would be a result if we were putting consistent thought and action towards them, and there isn't, right? So you can do that with anything, big scale, small scale, oh geez, somebody is always late and they always have an excuse. Okay, well, they're always late. So they're consistently putting either a thought or a behavior in play that makes them consistently late. They need to change something to break that pattern. Somebody's consistently on time. Oh, well, then there must be a consistent way of thinking and behaving that keeps getting them that result over and over and over consistently. If somebody's late one time or somebody's early one time, vice versa, it's not that it happens exactly perfectly. That's not a pattern. A pattern is, more often than not, this is what happens. It doesn't have to be every single time, but if something happens 9 out of 10 times, that's a pattern. Even if it didn't happen that one time, 8 out of 10 times, that's a pattern. So patterns create outcomes. Look for the thought or the behavior that's creating your outcome. You'll see your pattern. Then you can adjust your pattern to get a different one, or maybe even to enhance it, or to take what you're doing in one area of your life and say, most people have more success in either their business area of life or their personal side of life. Usually there's a little bit more, maybe in their personal life, they can't get along with their spouse or people in their family, but in their business life, they can get along with everybody, or vice versa, right? You can, this is something you can do. You can take where you're being successful, break it down, and you can find ways that you're interacting that are successful. That's why it's successful in that area of your life, and then duplicate them in the other area of your life that you're not having so much luck with. Because like relationships, for instance, if you're good at relationships at work, relationships are based on foundational principles. And the main one is respect. You have to give other people respect, and you have to, and they have to respect you back. Like you, sometimes they just do respect you back. Sometimes you have to set boundaries so they respect you back. But some people can do that in their business life, but they can't do it in their personal life. Or they can do it in their personal life, but they can't do it in their business life. Find what you're doing right, your pattern of behavior that works successfully in one area of your life, and then just duplicate it. Because, of course, it's going to look different in your business life than your personal life. It's going to look different on a surface level. It's not going to be different on a dynamic lower level. The dynamic is the same. It's an aspect of respect. Now, does that respect look different? Yeah, sometimes it can. Like, I mean, if you're at work and, and somebody complains because your report was a day late, and you go, listen, I was overworked. I did the best that I could do. And, you have to understand that I wasn't dragging my feet. This was, I got it done as soon as humanly possible because of this, and this, and then, so you set a boundary and you go, hey, wait, don't give me crap. Like, I'm working very hard. And now all of a sudden they respect you. Now at home, it's not going to look like a report, but you can have your kid or your spouse complaining about dinner, and you can be like, listen, like, I'm busting my ass over here doing the best I can. So I don't want to hear it. And then all of a sudden you set a boundary there, right? It's there. They might look a little bit different on the surface level, but dynamic wise, they're the exact same. So, just how we're looking, we're not, and I think this is probably the last part I'm going to talk about. I explained how patterns create outcomes, right? And I showed it from one perspective. So we can use it to change our lives. Why? Because patterns create outcomes. So if we want lasting transformation, to transcend things, which to me is why we do this work, like the transcend it. I am not walking through the rest of my life with the same problems I had 20 years ago. I want to transcend my problems. I want them to be a non-issue. That's the whole point of doing self-work, in my opinion. It's not so I can sit there 20 years later and say, well, I'm still struggling with this, but I think I'm doing a little better. Like, oh my God, what that's exhausting. Like, transcend the problem, please. So if we're talking about lasting transformation, we can't do things occasionally. Well, feeling good, feeling motivated today, so I'm going to hit the gym. And then we don't go for 3 weeks. Feeling motivated today, going to hit the gym. Then we don't go for 3 weeks. Like, you're not going to change anything, right? So changing our daily patterns helps us transcend issues permanently. It helps us reshape our lives permanently. It helps us become better versions of ourselves permanently, So set those patterns of behavior. Set yourself a plan. Like I was talking about earlier, if I'm going to implement something in my life, as a general rule, what I do is I sit down, usually on a weekend, but not necessarily. All that matters is that I ain't doing it right then. Whatever I'm trying to set a plan for. Because if I'm trying to set it then, my ego comes in and is like trying to talk me out of it and control me and all this stuff. So if my ego comes in, I go, no, I'm not I'm not doing this now. I'm just creating a plan for the future. I'm going to implement it in the future. And my ego goes, oh, all right, whatever. Like, I'll just control you when it comes time for you to do it. So, that's just kind of how your ego, if you understand your ego, you can outsmart it. It's not a thinking entity. It has certain patterns of behavior. It doesn't understand time. It doesn't understand future and plans and all this stuff. It just tries to control you when things are happening. This is why people think they're changing their minds all the time. You're not changing your mind. It's your ego coming in and talking you out of something that you wanted to accomplish. And you just think it's you changing your mind because it's that voice inside your head. No, you're the one that's listening to that voice. That voice is the ego. You're the one hearing it. So when that little voice goes, you know what? I don't really feel like doing this today. You go, oh, I don't really feel like doing this today. That's your ego. That's not you. So you can't act like it's you. So when we're setting these plans in place, I get my ego out of the way, say, no, I'm not doing it now. And then I sit down and I go, okay, like, when am I going to do this? Oh, I'm going to meditate. Okay, when? Every day. Okay, what time? Okay, set the reminder in my phone. Set the alarm to go off, the notification. Okay, got it. All right, is there anything else I need to do? Am I going to be able to do this? Yes. Oh, okay. All right. Set in place. Yeah. Okay. Now starting the next day, it's set in place. And then no matter whether I want to do it or whether I think I don't want to do it, I do it. Why? Because I set it in place. And I set it in place for, like, depending on the thing, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. And I go, at the end of 2 weeks, I'll assess. And if I need to make any changes, I'll make it in 2 weeks. But even if this is the stupidest thing I've ever done, I'm going to do it for 2 weeks. Because if you're just sitting there calmly, right? We're intelligent people. Your ego treats you like you're an idiot. You're not an idiot. If you're sitting there going like, oh, I can work out 3 days a week. I can meditate every morning 15 minutes before I brush my teeth or before I head out to work or whatever. Like, and you sit there and logically you figure out, is there any reason why I can't do this? No, it's reasonable. Okay. Like, you're not crazy when you set this plan in place. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, your ego comes in and goes, no, you shouldn't do that. And you go, well, I made a commitment and I'm doing it. And your ego's like, no, man, like that you didn't take this into consideration and that into consideration. And you didn't think, you didn't realize you weren't going to really feel motivated today. And you didn't realize that, that you had to set your alarm 15 minutes early. Wait a minute. You didn't think this thing through. And you're like, oh yeah, I must be a moron. Yeah, I really did jump the gun and I just leapt into this without really thinking. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And you just lost. And none of it's true. Your ego knows how to press your buttons. So I don't get into an argument with my ego, one that I could possibly lose. I don't allow myself to discuss it with myself. I set it in place when I am of clear mind and clear body. I set the plan in place and then I implement it. No excuses. And if I'm a moron and I forgot something, then I'm a moron for 2 weeks and I'll make the changes in 2 weeks. Hasn't turned out yet. Sticking to it has always worked. I've never been halfway through an adjustment and said, wow, this was the stupidest thing I've ever done. I didn't think this through at all. I've never done that. It's always been my ego that I've been keeping at bay. So this is how we change our daily patterns, not just occasional actions, but our daily patterns, our way of thinking, our way of behaving. And a lot of times it's our way of behaving and the thinking comes up later. Like I did a podcast many years ago on we have to act ourselves into better thinking instead of thinking ourselves into better action. Usually what people do is they sit and they're not motivated. They're not doing things that they need to be doing. Their life is not going the way that they want them to and want it to. And they go, okay, well, this just doesn't seem right. Taking this action just doesn't feel right. I'll know when I should make my adjustment. It's like, no, you won't. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. You're at rest. Like, you need to push yourself to make some changes. So a lot of times we just have to set action plan in place and then just start taking the action. And then after we take the action for a little while, we start enjoying it. And our brain catches up. You start giving it these endorphins, and and you start feeling good about yourself. Why? Because you're taking the action. So don't wait for your brain to tell you it's a good idea. Set the behaviors in place and start following through on the behaviors. And you'd be amazed at how much your thinking catches up. So that's going to do it. That's my patterns of behavior. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. Hope you got something out of it. If I can be of service, let me know. And have a great day.